Is this man going to become a pope? Yes, this man, this African man right here, is he going to become a pope after what he said? Well, you need to listen to what he said. But before we get to that, hi, my name is Zack. You're very welcome. Yeah, you gotta go visit Uganda. Lovely place. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Very welcome. I appreciate you. We want you here, please. Thank you. This is family. This is one of the best decisions you made on YouTube. Trust me. Again, I was saying, in the world of today, you can't just say things the way you want to say them, unfortunately. You could be right by saying certain things, but people don't necessarily want to hear you say, even when you're right. It could cost you everything. Is this the case of this very interesting human being, Cardinal Robert Sarah? He is an African man from Guinea, a potential next pope. Yes, but he said things in the past. You need to watch this.
Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, in the rise of Europe's economic power, and within the cultural context, more specifically of Western society, it is not an exaggeration to say that man works, organizes, and manages human, political, economic, and commercial relations, and provokes wars.
Thank you, Captain Zack here. Thank you very much. We are selling nicely on our way to Ulaya. Do you know where Ulaya is? Ulaya. Yes, on our way to Ulaya. Anyway, that's Swahili. Thank you very much again. Please subscribe, click on the button. And also, before we start, let's just do this. We need to push this further. Everybody got to see this. Yes, there's a great lesson here. You family, we want you here. Please subscribe if it's not done yet. Thank you. Let's go.
Produces weapons of mass destruction, invades and conquers countries, solely or almost solely to amass and accumulate material, wealth, and to establish his authority and hegemony. With the fine and noble reason of forcibly installing democracy everywhere and bringing peace and freedom, Europe and the United States have created chaos in many countries, especially in the Middle East and Africa.
Wow. The US and Europe, with the goal of amassing wealth and bringing democracy, have created chaos in many places in the world. This is a man speaking in Belgium in front of white people and a potential pope. Let's continue.
My judgment may seem inaccurate or exaggerated, but we cannot deny today's reality. Look at Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Europe has been experiencing an unprecedented civilizational crisis for more than a century. This crisis is therefore not recent, but it continues to deepen, worsen, and demolish any reference to God.
They're smiling.
The only human means. The only political or diplomatic negotiations are powerless to achieve unity, to establish peace among men. I improved my relationship with God, and God improved and pacified the relationships among men and nations. Today, Western powers are promoting false rights, distorted rights, to give everyone and all citizens of the world unfettered access and the power to self-determine regardless of their sexual identity. They want to change the culture to establish a sexually
Did you hear that?
undifferentiated society. They claim to liberate humanity, so to speak, not only from God who created it, but also from man and woman, to free it from the father, the mother, the spouse, marriage, and the family.
You're talking about being bold? Fellas, this is a person who is potentially a future pope. Okay? And he's got an opportunity for that. But he doesn't give a continental. You need to put it out there, whether you like it or not. Not many people have this level of courage. Let's continue.
Thus, a new global culture will emerge, celebrating, in the name of the absolutized freedom of the individual, choices leading to the death of man and woman and the destruction of our humanity. These new rights become civil are at two extremes: the right to die and the right not to be born. Between the two are the rights to abortion, the right to genetic manipulation, the right to a child reduced to being merely a thing or an object. But there is also the right to insult and to desecrate religions. By observing and analyzing our world and its desire for emancipation and autonomy from God, we clearly see that in the name of a perversion of freedom, now disoriented, we are faced with an unprecedented attempt in the history of humanity, that of destroying humanity itself, of destroying the natural capacity that man has, the capacity to love, and thus depriving humanity of an irreplaceable source of light, strength, and love.
Wow.
Which is to say, God.
Wow. Okay. This man is going at them big time. And he's not playing. And I know you want to know who he is, okay? His name is Cardinal Robert Sarah. Okay? Robert Sarah. He's a prominent Guinean Catholic prelate known for his firm defense of traditional Catholic teaching. So the man was born in 1945 in French Guinea. And you can see he has no inferiority complex. And he's standing there in front of everybody from all over the place. Europeans watching and listening to him. He doesn't give a continental. Let's continue.
What ruins man is his break and the destruction of his personal relationships with God. What harms man's true happiness is the confusion and imbalance of minds. It is the slavery of money. It is exploitation for commercial and selfish purposes.
Okay, so what's destroying humanity is the confusion. You know, you confused because remember he spoke about Europe and America. He said you are confused. Okay, it's not that the world is not okay. You're confused. You don't know who you are, whether you are a man or you're very confused. Number two, it's the wanting of too much money. Okay, you're going to other people's country looting things. He's not saying it in that. You know, the way to tell people the truth without necessarily punching them in the face with the truth. You can say the truth in a very subtle way. It's your love for other people's things. You know, going to these other countries, Iraq and whatever. That is the problem, bringing democracy. And the man is putting it out there. Do you think this man is going to become a pope? Let's go.
Of the secret dream that man carries in his heart. It is the ignorance of the true value of man. It is the forgetfulness of the essential purposes of society. What makes that we no longer even have the time to live or to love. We have killed God and are in the process of destroying man.
Wow.
This destruction ultimately leads to the refusal to acknowledge God's plan for man. The destruction of man's body through the irreversible destruction of his genetic integrity is the greatest tragedy in the history of humanity.
Changing a man to become something that is not. It's the biggest drama of the history of humanity. You know, going to school is also important because then you can tell people shit without necessarily telling them shit in the face. Like you can say you without necessarily saying yeah, you just use words very nicely, but you're telling them in the face without necessarily saying. Let's go.
Nous sommes arrivés à l'apogée de la rébellion de l'Occident contre Dieu,
rebellion of the West against God. And he's speaking to people from the West in their face.
we have reached the peak of the West's rebellion against God and against the human person. Never has the revolt against God experienced such horizontal expansion across the world. The spiritual crisis in Europe necessarily leads to a profound crisis and an anthropological destructive force from which humanity might not recover. The systematic destruction of the family is promoted in the name of democratic values that have been diverted from their original meaning. Under the guise of fighting discrimination, some want to erase the difference between sexes within marriage and promote family models in which conjugal love and the transmission of life become separable elements.
Okay, so you know, fellas, that today you can't talk about these things because there's a name for that. If you talk about that, they call you, you're yeah. You can't say that. So he says they want to mute people from speaking about differences in the name of discrimination. So they're saying, in other words, if you say humans should remain the way God created them, you'll be discriminating against other people. They're trying to shut people down. Now, let me put it this way for you. The Pope before him had a very different stance when it comes to this. Matter of fact, in 2020, a documentary showed the Pope Francis stating that, those people, I'm not going to say the name, it's three letters because, he said that they are children of God who deserve love, care, emphasizing that nobody should be thrown out or made miserable over it. Surely, he's 100% right. He also allowed blessing of same couples. Okay, he allowed that. In 2023, the Vatican announced the priest could bless same couples under certain conditions. These blessings are not to be confused with the sacrament of marriage and should not involve wedding ritual. The church clarified that the policy does not endorse same union but allows pastoral care or God mercy. In other words, people took it as he allowed people of same to, in church. Now, this man is not about that life. As you can imagine, the number of people, same, how many people are against us? Now, is he going to become the Pope? Big question mark. Who votes the Pope? How is the Pope established? Yes, there's a vote that happens. There is today 253 cardinals in the world. And out of 253, only 135 are eligible to vote for a Pope. Yes, so cardinals vote the Pope. The conclave takes place in strict secrecy inside the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City. The cardinal secret ballots up to 4 times a day, in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. To be elected, the cardinal must receive 2/3 majority. So they're going to hold a vote on who's going to become the cardinal. Many factors are going to play. The race is going to play? Well, question mark. We cannot ignore that. Sorry. Number 2, stance on views in the world. Is it going to... Yes, absolutely. Now, can the vote be influenced by cardinal? Possibly. Now, can the cardinal be influenced by somebody else, external power? Very possible, because they're human beings. They will discuss with somebody who perhaps has views that lean toward one stance or the other. So they can have votes cast them without necessarily being truly independent, because that's what human beings do. Let's continue.
But the clear analysis and vigorous warnings of Pope Benedict XVI remind us that European identity is manifested in marriage and family. And Europe would no longer be Europe if the family, this fundamental cell of the social organism, disappeared and was completely transformed. We are all unfortunately witnesses today to a violent assault and a threat of demolition against marriage and the family. In stark Contrast to Benedict XV's, we now have homosexual individuals who paradoxically demand that their shared life be legally recognized to be more or less assimilated to marriage. This trend takes us out of the moral history of humanity as a whole, where despite all the varieties of legal matrimonial forms, marriage was always considered, in accordance with its essence, as the unique communion of a man and a woman open to children and thus constituting the family.
That's what it is, fellas. So it's all about basics. What he's saying is, let's get back to basics. What was supposed to be the church in the past should return. The values, the conduct, the principles. We need them back. Now this man, like I said, it's from Africa. Very strong stance. Very traditional at the same token. These are the very views for which the president of Uganda has been put to the side by the West. Because yes, he did officially vote laws that will do harms to people that do these activities. Surely going to the extreme, but this is the same pole, the same side of the token. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. God bless.